Bilateral agreement signed during President's visit to Bangladesh. Former Navy media spokesperson DKP Dasanayake remanded. Interim injunction order issued preventing political activities at the Abhayarama Viharya. Minister Kiryala requests university students to return to their studies. Price reductions to be imposed on medical equipment.
Hello there, very good Friday evening to all our viewers. This is Primetime News. We are coming to you live and direct from our Newsfirst studios in Colombo. I'm Zola Outspoon.
And I'm Bernadine Singh. A very good evening to you. Let's now take a look at your stories in detail. President Maithripala Sirisena on a 3-day state visit to Bangladesh met Bangladeshi Prime Minister Sheikh Hasina this morning.
Discussions between the two leaders commenced following a cordial welcome accorded to the Sri Lankan head of state. During the discussion, special attention was drawn towards creating trade agreements between Sri Lanka and Bangladesh, as well as the creation of a special economic zone. According to the President's media unit, a new program is to be established to transfer knowledge between the two nations in the sectors of agriculture and fisheries, and also to collaborate in developing information technology and preventing terrorism. Sri Lanka is also to receive technical assistance from Bangladesh in order to increase paddy production in the island. During the discussion, the Bangladeshi Prime Minister had pointed out that the two nations must unite in order to tackle the migrant issue and the eradication of the drug cartels. The President's media unit says that President Maithripala Sirisena extended an invitation to the Bangladeshi Premier to visit Sri Lanka in the near future. Agreements were entered into the fields of standardization, increasing economic cooperation, information technology, and radio and television development. The foreign ministers of the two countries also signed a number of agreements in the fields of garments, shipping, training of the foreign employment cadre, and also for the establishment of a training center for foreign employment. A travel agreement was also entered into where citizens travelling on a diplomatic or official passport will not be required to obtain visa prior to their arrival. UN Special Rapporteur Ben Emmerson concluded his visit to Sri Lanka today. The purpose of the visit was to assess the progress Sri Lanka has achieved in its law, policies and practice in the fight against terrorism since the end of the internal armed conflict. Emmerson presented his preliminary findings at a press conference in Colombo this afternoon.
I would like to commend the transparency and the largely courteous, constructive and cooperative way in which the government initiated and facilitated this official visit, which allowed a frank and open dialogue. 2 years on, and already 4 months into a 2-year extension granted to the government by the Human Rights Council, progress in achieving the key goals set out in the resolution is not only slow, but seems to have ground to a virtual halt. None of the measures so far adopted to fulfil Sri Lanka's transitional justice commitments are adequate to ensure real progress. I was given a personal assurance by the Prime Minister that once the current process of counter-terrorism reform has been completed, the government will pass legislation paving the way for a Truth and Reconciliation Commission to be established, and will set up an office of the Special Prosecutor to bring criminal charges against those involved in the most serious atrocities committed by both sides of the armed conflict. These are, of course, steps which the government had already promised to the international community that it would have delivered in full by now. It is fair to say that there are some very slight indications of positive movement in this direction.
On the front page of the Island today, the paper reports Justice Minister Dr. Vijayadasa Rajapaksa had a heated argument with visitor and UN Special Rapporteur Ben Emmerson QC during a visit to the Justice Ministry earlier this week. Quoting well-informed sources, the island reports that Minister Vijayadasa Rajapaksa strongly questioned the UN official, resulting in an unprecedented fiery argument. Emerson had been somewhat taken back by Dr. Rajapaksa's outburst and warned Minister Rajapaksa that he would publicly announce the latter's refusal to cooperate with the UN. At today's briefing, the UN Special Rapporteur, Ben Emerson, refused to comment on the meeting.
Correct. It's not my policy to comment on confidential discussion. Don't worry, I make give very careful consideration to which parts of which meetings can properly be made public. And in doing so, I ensure that my interlocutors are aware that I will be making public what they say. Beyond that, it is not my policy to comment on private meetings that have taken place during the course of the mission.
Former Deputy Director of Operations of the Sri Lankan Navy and former Navy media spokesperson Commodore DKP Dasanayake has been placed in remand custody until the 19th of this month. Dasanayake was arrested yesterday in connection to the incident where 11 youth disappeared in 2008.
The former Navy media spokesperson was remanded after being produced before Colombo Fort Magistrate Lanka Jayaratna. Dasanayake was detained by the CID at the Navy Hospital in Valisara and was produced before court this morning after being brought aboard an ambulance. After considering facts presented by the CID that medical advice had been issued by doctors stating that the suspect not be tried in an open court due to his health condition, the magistrate examined the suspect aboard the ambulance. Dasanayake was receiving treatment at the Navy Hospital at the time of his arrest, and after being produced in court, the magistrate ordered that he be admitted to the prison's hospital.
The Minister of Higher Education has requested the medical students who are engaging in a boycott of classes to resume educational activities. The medical students began their action on 5 months ago in opposition to private medical colleges.
We call on the students to return to their classes and resume educational activities. We are in discussions with the doctors. We don't believe that there will be any more strike actions by the doctors. We spend roughly 8 million rupees for their university education. We call on the students to make use of this money, make use of the free education system and lead successful lives.
A complaint has been lodged with the CID stating that there are groups which obstruct medical students from returning to lectures. There were also reports of the newly appointed district health officer of the Angunukula Palasa District Hospital being obstructed by carrying out his activities.
The doctor who is currently serving as the officer in charge has not handed over any of the documentations in a proper manner. Documents pertaining to inventories and finances are among these documents. The doctor is now refusing to report to work. All the bank documents of the hospital have been placed in lockers which we cannot open. There is no way for the hospital to access the finances, the doctors, documents or any other ledgers or logs.
Since there was no permanent district doctor appointed to the Angunukula Palasa District Hospital, a temporary appointment was made. His name is Chanika Vijayatunga, the chairman of the GMOA Hambantota branch. This doctor turned up at work on 2 days after the new appointment was made and has not since then reported to work. He has not taken leave as well. It has been around 2 weeks. This is a very sad situation.
Speaking at a medical exhibition that was held this morning at the BMICH, Minister of Health Dr. Rajitha Senaratne stated there has been a reduction in the number of dengue cases reported over the past 4 days.
Next week, I will reduce the prices of stents. A stent which is priced at 350,000 at present will be reduced to 105,000. The steel variant, which is currently priced at 70,000, will be reduced to 24,000. These will be gazetted over the next few days. Not only that, very soon we will bring in measures to regulate the prices of goods and services at private hospitals. It has been brought to my attention that some doctors charge one price at one hospital and then charge another price at the next hospital. We will limit all these malpractices in the near future.
The minister also elaborated on the current dengue situation in the country.
126,000 cases of dengue have been reported in Malaysia with 400 deaths. Dengue is even spreading in the states of Texas, Florida and California in the United States. Last week, dengue even raised its head in Laos. This is spreading rapidly and the ministry is doing everything it can to arrest this situation. However, the ministry can't work on its own. This is like malaria. The reasons for the spread of this epidemic does not lie within the capacity of the ministry alone. Another factor that affects the rapid spreading of dengue is the weather. However, over the past 4 days, we have seen a reduction in the number of dengue cases being reported. But there is a possibility it will rise again between October to December. At present, admissions have decreased. But we are yet to figure out whether it is the climate changes that led to this situation or the measures taken by us to curb the spread of this menace.
The central bank is vested with the responsibility of regulating the transactions that involve public funds. Newsfirst reported yesterday of attempts by the Information Communication Technology or ICTA to hand over this responsibility to 3 private companies. We now bring you further details on the evolving story.
A national payment platform is a system where online transactions can be carried out using electronic payment methods such as credit cards. The platform will create a way to carry out transactions with institutions like the Inland Revenue Department, the Customs Department, the Excise Department and other state institutions, banks as well as financial institutions. Yesterday, we reported that the Information Communication Technology Agency or ICTA has shortlisted 3 private companies to carry out this project. The central bank should be the regulatory authority of a system like this, where major financial transactions will be carried out.
No, the central bank has a responsibility in terms of the Act to regulate any payment system. No, nobody is intending to do that. I mean, it's clear, everybody accepts that the central bank has to regulate. You know, how these systems are developed, there are various ways it can be done. What the central bank has to ensure is the safety and security of the system. So from a regulatory perspective.
The law pertaining to payment systems is very clearly mentioned in the Payment and Settlement Systems Act No. 28 of 2005. It says that the central bank shall be the authority responsible for the preparation of a plan for a national payment system. The company shortlisting to develop this system, however, has been done by the ICTA. The prospectus of one of the companies shortlisted, TotalPay, says that they have been awarded the right to operate as a digital instruction provider or a DIP to the national payment platform by ICTA. According to the prospectus, TotalPay as a DIP can carry out user-executed transactions by transmitting instructions to the bank via the national payment platform, with whose authority is the NPP, which should be regulated by the CBSL, handed over to the ICTA. What approval has the ICTA received to transfer this responsibility to a private company?
Well, for an update on the story we carried last night, we cross over to Chaturango Haparachi in News First Center.
Thank you very much, Joel. Joel, you and I would be involved in transactions over an ATM machine, an automated teller machine. How does these transactions take place? They take place through a system called the National Payment Switch, initiated by Lanka Clear Private Limited. Now, we sent an email to the Central Bank of Sri Lanka with several questions with regard to the story that you just viewed a short while ago, the National Payment Platform. Now, the Central Bank has sent us a lot of information. We are eager to reveal this information to you in the coming days as well. But with regard to the Lanka Clear system, which is the system that is in place to do these transactions, or the system that is in place to carry out these transactions, the Central Bank says or gives us the background of how it came to be. Now, the Sri Lanka Customs has requested the Central Bank to implement a payment platform which connects to all commercial banks with the Sri Lanka Customs and the LCPL, Lanka Clear Private Limited. This has received the approval of the Monetary Board of Sri Lanka as well, and the go-ahead was received from there. Now, LCPL, Lanka Clear Private Limited, implemented and tested this system with several commercial banks thereafter, and they realized that this is a successful attempt with the CBSL, and the CBSL informed this to the readiness of the system to all the commercial banks that were involved in the testing process. And then The CBSL informed all these commercial banks who were involved in the testing to be added to the Lanka Clear Private Limited payment platform that they created. Now this is the background behind Lanka Clear, which is the current system that is regulated by the Central Bank of Sri Lanka to carry out online transactions. We will have the details that was mentioned to us by the Central Bank through an email in the coming days of our story under the National Payment Platform. For now, that is the update we have. It's back to the main studio.
Thank you, Chaturanga. In more local news, Adayam 2017, a national trade fair organized by UNDP Sri Lanka, was inaugurated today at the BMICH. The primary objective of Adayam 2017 is to create a favorable platform for Sri Lankan small and medium-sized enterprises, enable them to connect with larger markets and expand businesses' partnerships for national and international trade.
Speaking at the inauguration ceremony, Ambassador of the delegation of the EU to Sri Lanka and the Maldives, Tunlai Mag, elaborated on the opportunities available for SMEs following the reintroduction of the GSP Plus scheme.
It is noteworthy that women have been promoted through specialized trainings for skill enhancement and alternative and viable means of income through tourism and value addition. This is very important because gender and women empowerment are top priorities of the EU. The National Trade Fair we are launching today are expected to provide the entrepreneurs with the chance to explore the market in Colombo and generate business linkages to expand their supplies also to international markets and hopefully to the European Union market, taking benefit of the newly granted GSP Plus.
The three-day fair will showcase over 200 entrepreneurs, producer groups and organizations from 10 selected districts of the country, namely Ampara, Anuradhapura, Batiklo, Jaffna, Kilinochchi, Mannar, Monaragala, Mullaitivu, Puttalam and Vaunia.
More news follows after this short commercial break. Welcome back to the news. An agreement was reached today regarding the conservation of the Rangiridambulu Viharya.
A group including Secretary to the Minister of Education Sunil Hettiarachchi, Commissioner General of Archaeology Professor P.B. Mandavala, former Director General of Archaeology Dr. Shiran Daranyagala called on the Chief Prelate of the Askiri chapter and the Sangha Council in order to discuss conservation of the Dambula Cave Temple. Advisor to the Central Cultural Fund, Venerable Dambara Amila Thero, was also present at the occasion.
The conservation activities should continue under the supervision of the chief incumbent Theros. We reached an agreement with the government and we agreed to reach a decision with all parties. The decision involves making room for the traditional pujas without closing down the temple. There may be some issues that crop up in the future. We agreed to remain in constant touch. The final amendment to the Archaeology Conservation Act was in 1998. We also reached a decision to have a discussion about this in the future. This is not something that you can do in a hurry. There was a good discussion and we will be drawing up a project proposal. This will then be discussed with our Theros and we will move forward accordingly.
Colombo Chief District Judge Sujeeva Nishanka issued an interim injunction today prohibiting political activities within the Abhirama Vihara in Narayanpeta.
The order was issued when a petition filed by Venerable Patbariya Vimalayana Thero, the chief incumbent of the Sri Abhayarama Vihara in Narayanpeta and the Sri Purvarama Vihara in Kirulapana, was taken up in court today. The council appearing on behalf of the Thero pointed out that Venerable Murattettuve Ananda Thero, who has been looking after the activities of the Abhayarama for an extended period of time, had been using the premises for political activities, adding that it is not fitting for such a place of worship to be used for such activities.
The defendant Thero has no right to control the Abhayarama Vihara. Half of the temple was taken by the government for development activities. He accepted the money from the state and concealed it from me. Because of such differences, I called on him to leave the premises and hand over operational activities to me.
Former chairman of the SLRC, Professor Arya Ratna Apugala, and two others apologized in court today when a case filed by 4 employees of the SLRC was taken up for consideration. The case had been filed stating that the former chairman and other defendants had verbally abused them and had levelled death threats against them. Based on a consensus reached between both parties, Colombo Chief Magistrate Lal Ranasinghe called on the defendants to apologize to the complainants in keeping with the traditions and afterwards closed the case. Former Additional Director General of the SLRC, Devapriya Abesinghe, and P.D. Sugadapala were the other two suspects implicated in the case. The complainants had charged that the incidents in question occurred during the run-up to the 2010 general election. Meanwhile, counsel appearing on behalf of former Minister Johnston Fernando and two others objected to a request by the state to amend the charges filed against them. The case had been filed stating that the suspects caused a loss of 40 million rupees to the state by removing 150 Satosa employees from their regular service and using them for political activities. Colombo Chief Magistrate Lal Ranasinghe Bandara noted that a ruling in this regard would be issued on the 25th of August.
The time of this government is very limited. Every false activity that they conduct is unravelling. They have been transformed into a talentless government. Maithripala Sirisena is buying time. He is fooling the members of the SLFP. He says, I will change the government next month, or puts on a performance at the cabinet. The UNP ministers are blaming the SLFP ministers and vice versa. Can you have such a government? They have requested 4 months. Can you resolve all of this in 4 months? The JVP is waiting on one side as if it is not their government. They worked hard to create this. The leader of their party obtained money from Malik Samaravikrama.
Speaking at an event held today, Minister S.B. Navin expressed strong views regarding former President Mahinda Rajapaksa.
This government will continue for the next 10 to 15 years. Various people may shout, but I'm very well aware of these persons who make such a noise. Some of them tell me in vain we didn't switch when we had the chance. A leader who has no connection to this area was sent to contest from Kurunegala. Don't our people have the backbone to vote for someone from the Satkoralaya? Why do they have to vote for a person from the south? I opposed this as well. These southerners have no idea what Galigamua is, so what is the point of them holding positions in the government? The people of this area acted foolishly when they voted for Mahinda Rajapaksa.
The 76th anniversary and the 62nd AGM of the State Gender Services Union was held in Colombo today under the auspices of former Minister D.E.W. Gunasekara.
The government has a budget deficit, a financial deficit and a debt crisis. This is something that has been building up since 1977 and now they are up against the wall. No matter who comes into power, they will not be able to survive unless there is a change in policies. Neither the government nor the opposition is speaking on this. The main reason for this is the lack of an organized labour force and the breakdown of the trade union network. France had a presidential election recently. The winner was not a politician. He was an advisor to the president. He is a 33-year-old youngster who developed methods to resolve economic issues. He rejected the government, formed his own party, and within a year he was elected as president and got a 2/3 majority in parliament. This has never happened in French election history. If the labour force is organized, then we will be able to tackle any government or any issue.
The 38th annual sports meet of the Yoshida Shokanji Preschool in Sapukaskanda was held today.
A distinguished gathering including Deputy Minister Dulip Vijay Sekara, MP Harshana Rajakaruna and former Sri Lankan cricket captain T.M. Dilshan were present at the occasion. The parents here might want these children to become doctors or lawyers. My father wanted me to become a footballer. He didn't even let me touch a cricket bat. However, he later understood where my talents were, and as parents, they helped me to become who I am. I call on the parents to identify the talents of these children and help them follow their own path. Then they will be able to serve the country better. If someone says there is no need for preschool education, then it is an uneducated opinion. The government has a major role to play in developing preschools. The main issue is preschools are popping up like mushrooms, but they have no standards. The teachers are not qualified and there is a dearth of proper teachers.
The premiere of the film Dharma Yuddha was screened in Colombo yesterday. This is the latest film introduced by the Capital Maharaja Organisation Limited to the Sinhala cinema.
The premiere got underway at the Regal Cinema in Colombo. The film was originally created in 2013 and was scripted in Malayalam. Thereafter it was translated to 4 languages. The film was screened in Tamil, titled Pabanasam, and starred Kamal Hassan in the lead role. The Sinhala version of the film, titled Dharma Yuddha, sees veteran film stars Jackson Anthony and Dilhani Ashokamala take the main roles.
I think this is the best film that is being screened at the Regal Cinema in nearly 50 years. I think this is the biggest premiere we have seen since the film Rekawa. I don't think our film industry will ever die with such productions. With companies like Sierrasa lending a hand to new film directors of this calibre, I am assured that the local film industry will be in good hands and will have a great future.
Dharma Yuddha will be screened in cinemas island-wide from today. Stay tuned, more news follows after this break.
Stay with us after the news for Newsfirst Review 360 on TV1. We have an exclusive interview with the Australian High Commissioner Bryce Hutchison and Anushka Vijayasinghe, Chief Economist of the Ceylon Chamber of Commerce.
Now, the potential for trade, education and tourism between Sri Lanka, Australia and New Zealand will be under discussion. On that note, we wrap up this edition of Primetime News. Thank you very much for stopping by. For the News1st team, I'm Joel Outscore.
And I'm Bernadine Jayasinghe. Good night. Take care.